always say that as a precursor.
No, we're legal.
All right. Good morning. Good morning.
Good evening.
Good evening.
That's okay, it's Monday.
I'm stuck on the morning.
Monday,
Yep, it's Monday, August 26th, 2019, 4:30 p.m. in the Thomas J. Smith Council Chambers. This is a work session. So for the proposed regular agenda for September 3rd, 2019, we've got some mayor's awards. And number 2, we have a public hearing, consideration of application for multifamily rental unit production new construction program, round 6 for the Tama Building site from the Iowa Economic Development Authority Community Development Block Grant Program.
So without Eric here, it kind of, I'm not sure what the order is that we're going through this with, but we have the application for CDBG. Were you gonna go over that at all? Or turn it over to
I was gonna turn
Southeast
it over
Iowa? To which one?
Is Doug Wells
To
here?
Doug?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, were we gonna give a status of where it sits for CDBG packet? How full a packet it is after Doug presents then? You wanna do that? Okay, so Doug, if you wanted to go present your proposal and.
So there's 2 different entities presenting this evening on this topic? I'm just curious.
Doug will is the applicant, but
Right.
Southeast Iowa would we run most of our materials
Yep.
through them just to give an overview of where it stands.
Perfect, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Wallace.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. So I just wanted to give you an update how the design has evolved. The last time we talked, we had a phase 1, phase 2 design, and there was discussion how would the timing of all that work. We've eliminated the 2 phases. There's 1 phase for the entire project and the entire site. There's approximately 6,000 square feet of mercantile or retail space that's on Jefferson and on 3rd Street, and then 22 apartments, and 10 of them are 2-bedroom, 12 are 1-bedroom, and it follows the guidelines in the CDBG grant application where 51% of them are income restricted or rent assisted. And starting with that one, that's
Yes.
good. So this is a site plan and floor plan drawn together. And you see Jefferson Street and North 3rd Street. We have an L-shaped building, so we're building out full buildings on the street fronts on 3rd Street and on Jefferson. So as you would look at a sight line down Jefferson, the face of the building is going to line up with the other faces of the building. So the hole that's there now will be filled in, and it'll complement the urban fabric that is there. Our proposal includes on Jefferson 5,450 square feet of retail space, and that space is going to be built out at the same height as the space that was there in the original Tama building. So the ceilings are about 14 feet 6 inches high. So it's the same scale of the sort of grand old buildings that were here. And we're matching those heights exactly. And then as you would turn the corner and let's say walk up the hill a little bit on North 3rd Street, we have an opening in the building, and you can see it on this plan. We're showing the brick pavers. So that is a fairly wide opening that's about 14 feet wide, and you're able to walk back into the outdoor retail space. And we have a note on there that that's retail space and dining space. So in the event that we're able to secure a restaurant tenant, they would have the ability to set up outdoor dining in that space behind. And then there's a larger green block that's on the plan, which is a landscaped element. So it's a permeable landscape grass surface with landscaping. And so those elements of the permeable brick pavers in the west alley and the permeable brick pavers in the north alley and our courtyard, and we have some bioswales where the roof drain water comes down. We exceed all the stormwater quality issues and the stormwater quantity management issues with the that are in our CDBG grant application. So that's how we achieve that. The project before had a green roof on it, so we've moved that area of the green roof down to the ground surface, and we don't have access to the roof surface now. So the building is 3 stories, and then the parapet or the cornice line where it wraps around the corner is all at a consistent elevation like the original Tama building was. And can we go on to the next one? And then this is a floor plan of the 2nd floor and 3rd floor apartment levels. They are identical. Thank you. They are identical, and so we have some larger 2-bedroom units in the corners, and then each apartment has its own balcony that is 5 feet by 12 feet in the dimension on this plan. We have the exit stairs that are shown. This works. The exit stairs that are shown in the orange, and an elevator, then kind of a utility core in this location. Right now, the existing transformer is sitting right here in the northwest corner, and I did learn today in working through some details that according to Lion Energy, that is a service feed locations for other buildings up and down the alley. And it was part of the demolition plans to have Alliant remove that. They can't quite do it yet until the utility, those portions are figured out. And it is our goal to move it inside this meter courtyard where I'm pointing right now. So that would be that green box that's a transformer would move to that location. And then in this portion, all the meters are inside kind of a fenced-in corral to screen the view of that. So this is a sketch of the exterior. The windows are larger than the Tama building windows. We're trying to get more light into the units. So this is the south elevation, and you can see the L-shaped piece. And then we're planning on having brick on the exterior columns and the Jefferson Street frontage, as well as the 3rd Street frontage. And I'll come back to that slide. So here is a view, and we're looking northwest. This is Jefferson Street, and then this is North 3rd Street. And we're illustrating kind of the same proportions and columns that the Tama building had, same proportions on the cornice. So it's really bringing back a lot of what was going on with that. We would like to investigate using the same color of brick that was there. Then on 3rd Street, this opening shows the access to the courtyard. And then here's an aerial view kind of taken over where the Gypsy store is in Dave Hazel's building. So this is the new transformer, the electric meters and the gas meters in this corral. Here are these 3 bioswales that pick up the roof rainwater, and then our courtyard. And I left the landscaping off this drawing just so we could clearly see the parts and pieces of it. You can see the residential unit balconies that would open up to this courtyard. So we end up with a pretty generous space in this interior location for the courtyard. This is at North Alley with the brick pavers, and then the West Alley with the brick pavers. So we're following the alley development with the permeable pavers just as we were before. And then we had recreated the original arch, which is at the courthouse, and it is in our office, and so we're looking at installing it in this alcove on the facade facing North 3rd Street. So that is a quick update as to what the design is. And we've been working on the CDB application, and Eric Tisland's been very, very helpful and doing everything he can to make it work. And we have submitted the application, and I guess with that, be happy to address any questions you have.
What's your expected construction start date and completion date? And then is Myers going to general the entire operation?
Yes.
Okay.
First with Myers Construction. We hired them to help supervise the demolition, and that went very well. We've been exceedingly happy working with them, and they're going to be the general contractor for the entire project all the way through.
When do you expect to start construction on the
Sure.
new facility and then complete it?
Right now, our late start is spring. However, we're all going to work as hard as we can to get the application in, get it approved, and try to get going this fall. There are a couple pieces that are challenging in that. As you recall, last January, we had a pause. We couldn't start demolition until we had the architectural mitigation study done. That was done. All the parties have accepted that study, and a piece of this project is implementing this architectural mitigation plan in the new building somewhere, and it is going to tell the story of the original Tama building. I have to get the State Office of Historic Preservation, SHPO. SHPO, your local historic commission, the community development department here, the city council, and the state office all on the same page as to what that is. We saved many of the artifacts that we could during demolition, and they have been stored that we would use. And they are elements like the cast iron columns, the copper cornice, the brick, the terracotta pieces, those different types of things. We have an abundant supply of those, and we're planning on implementing those things somewhere in the building, and perhaps the lobby to the apartments. However, I'm not supposed to, in this process, presuppose that that's an acceptable solution. We have to act as quarterback and bring those groups along together to arrive at the solution. It'd be my guess today that's about where we would end up. However, it does not affect our financing, our construction schedule. It doesn't affect the shell of the building we're building, the foundations, any of those elements at all. I just have to get those groups to agree on what we're going to do with these materials we've saved, if anything. I'm for the idea of telling the story, and we've saved the materials. That's what makes it possible that it could push into the spring. We have a financing commitment from Two Rivers Bank and Bank.Bank, both entities, not together, it would be one or the other, and a line of credit from Two Rivers Bank that lets us begin immediately on the project.
Well, but when is your expected completion date? I mean,
Okay,
if I start
and then-
building a building tomorrow, I'd like to say that I'm gonna be done X date. What's your X date?
10 months to a year,
From start?
yeah.
Okay.
And one other thing wanted to note, the site is cleaned up with the exception of the paving that's left in the courtyard. And that paving is going to be removed. We just met with the demolition contractor, but the structural fill is complete. There's about 5 feet of sand that was compacted and about 6 to 7 feet of clay that was compacted on top of it. We hired Klinger Associates, a local firm, to do the soils engineering on that and monitor the process. So that base is done today, and it's ready to go for the new building.
Okay.
Hey Doug, I have a couple questions for you. I like that you're facing the building out and trying to go with the original color and all that. I applaud that. I just wish we could utilize some of the ornate fixtures that we salvaged and just give it more of a historic feel. Original Tama had just a lot of history behind it, and I just don't want to lose all that. So don't lose sight of that. Keep that thought. If you can utilize that. And
We sure won't, and I like those ideas, and we will certainly make those thoughts known to SHPO. In general, their view is it's a new building and it ought to look like a new building and not try to copy an old building, and so they want to draw that distinction. However, I think there's a good solution that would add more of those features.
I'm just afraid if we hide it all inside, the historic people might never ever wander in there because
Not-
it's going to look like a new building
Sure.
on the outside. And then my other question was, you did have the green rooftops in the original plan. Is there a possibility in the future, if you wanted to do green gardens on the top, can they do that, or is that out of the question now?
The challenge is, in order to do it, we have to extend the elevator up and make it fully accessible, and then extend the 2 exit stairs up,
Okay.
and then beef the structure up quite a bit to support that load. And right now, I don't have that in the budget, and with the scenario we have here, I don't think we can afford that.
Okay.
To go along with her comments, Frank Millard did probably, I would say, an excellent job of trying to kind of keep that historical-esque facade. So I think there's definitely a way of making it look new and modern while still maintaining that historical feel. So,
Are the balconies a given? We have to go with the balconies?
Yep, so they're permanent.
No. Yeah, I mean, we don't have to have balconies, and,
No, that just kind of,
okay, is the concern they look junky?
no, I
Or-
don't, not that they look junky, they just,
well, I think they also have the ability to look, they could become cluttered and things like that, people putting things over there and such.
Yeah,
Maybe that's part of your concern?
I mean, I think it's your
They
building and you're
stick
paying
out.
the bill,
It
so.
doesn't give me a
You
uniform
gotta
feel.
Have fun.
I
Do,
know.
as long
The
as
balconies make-
it's aesthetically pleasing
I
to the
mean,
area.
yeah, I would like to have a
that's-
balcony.
that's okay.
Yeah, the balcony helps us out. I would tell you, this design compared to the first one you brought with the two separate buildings, I really think that will be pleasing to the eye in the corner. I applaud you. When I went through the packet, I thought, well, that's a little, it's nice to start with a blank canvas. It's unfortunate that we had to, but I think what you're looking at there is a very suitable replacement. So hats off to you.
Good, thank you. Regarding the balconies, they're going to have solid railings, so you can't see as much stuff on the balcony. And we will have a rule that you can't have anything stick up above
Oh, good.
the railing.
And then the courtyard, is that available for everyone or just the tenants?
It's just going to be open like you see it today, and anyone can.
So anyone using that retail space could go in there and eat their lunch or whatever? Okay.
Absolutely,
Okay,
yeah.
awesome. Okay, thank you very much.
Do we have any other questions for Mr. Wells?
Thrilled to see progress.
Great.
Let's get Greg.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your patience. I think
Thanks for
we're
staying the
getting
course.
Thank you, Doug.
So is this the project, the reason for this to come forward, this is a CDBG application. This is on 22 units, 12 LMI eligible. And it would, fairly similar to what had been here in place before. It was 48 units when the rehab was going on, I think.
Yes, the original application.
And that was 24 LMI units? 25 and
Could you
23,
come to
so
the
25
microphone?
LMI. There's a different process this time around than the previous time. We didn't have to approve the previous CDBG application because that went, for some odd reason, with that going through Dubuque County.
Yep, so during the 2008 floods, the state simplified things and had super regions across the state. I think there were 6 of them.
And then,
So-
Sarah, would you introduce yourself?
Oh,
and-
sorry. I'm Sarah with the Southeast Iowa Regional Planning Commission. And so we've had multiple of these upper story multifamily projects in our region, and they've all gone through the county of Dubuque. The county of Dubuque is ready to close out their grant. So we had a previous project in Fort Madison that we pulled out of the contract with the county of Dubuque and awarded it to the city. The city was then the grant applicant, and all the funds and everything went through the city, like a normal CDBG contract. This one would be very similar to that one as well. They would, the application would be from the city, the grant would be awarded to the city, and you'd have to follow all the other CDBG requirements that come with those grants.
I'm going to ask a question, and I know the answer, but I want everybody else to as well. Because our name's on the application, if something were to go wrong with this project, is the city on the hook for anything?
Yes, the city is the grant applicant.
Okay.
Like all the other CDBG grants the city applies for, it would be similar. Now, I'm not sure how far the state will process something if something would happen to the project, but you are the grant applicant.
What's the financial burden if something does go wrong?
So we've been working with the state and with Doug on payments on different scenarios to make sure that everybody's happy before payment is released to the developer. One of the requirements that everybody wants to see is having that general contractor, which they've have on board. Our office has worked with Myers before and haven't had any issues, so I think that will make things smoother. I know with the development agreement has kind of helped maybe reassure the city that, payments will.
Within the development agreement itself, it has some responsibilities and on both Doug as the developer and on us as a flow-through agent.
Correct.
We're working with Southeast Iowa Regional Planning to do a lot of the checks on this. What roles are you taking on to help us to make sure that the project is moving successfully forward?
We will make sure that we will work with the general contractor. There's going to be Davis Bacon on this project. We have to make sure that is followed. all the contractors have to be registered with the state, make sure everybody's getting paid, getting those lien waivers, and all of that. We'll work closely with Myers to make sure that's in our office. We'll probably have the city involved. We will do inspections as well, to make sure everybody's okay before that payment even goes into the state. The state's gonna be very cautious before they release payments as well.
So it's all on a reimbursement basis as the
Yes.
project
Yep.
proceeds?
Yep, so, actually Doug was used to the Dubuque County module, which took forever to get funds back, so, this one will be a lot quicker for him. We'll approve the, draw at the local level, it will go to the state, they will approve it, and then the funds will get reimbursed, well, they will come to the city and reimburse Doug. That's why he has that line of credit, to keep the contractors paid.
And even with that, we'll have some level of retainage as well that we're holding back to,
Yep, and I talked with the state last week, and they are considering some different options as well to make sure all the parties are happy with payments.
so there's nothing to keep us from, to be in a position where we're guaranteed that there isn't liability, but there are at least steps within here to try to limit our
There's a lot
liability
of
on it.
checks.
Correct, yes,
Three
yep.
levels of checks, okay.
That's good, it's reassuring.
Okay.
Do you guys have other questions about?
Do we have a complete application at this point?
I emailed Doug earlier, and he had sent his application this morning to Eric and myself, and I just had a couple suggestions to him. He is applying only for the rental unit, so we want to make sure none of that retail space is included in the grant application. We don't want that to be confusing for the state. A couple of stuff with his maybe debts, getting that more clarified, so they understand all the debt that he has on him, like his cash pro forma and stuff, so. Nothing I had was too major that I saw.
Okay.
There may be, if you aren't able to get everything cleared up, we may ask for a final decision or recommend that it be postponed to the following meeting, which would still be within a time frame, but you should be able to get all of it.
Yep, the state would like this by September 30th, so if it's not approved at the first council in September, it could be at the
We
second.
can wait till the second.
Yes, yep.
But we think that we should be able to get it all, but we do want to make sure that we have it all in hand before you're approving something.
And this is going through IEDA?
Yes.
Okay.
All right,
Anything else?
no, thank you.
And Catherine, have you been introduced to the council?
Not formally, no, I have not.
Okay, so would you
Hi,
like to
Catherine.
introduce who you are and what your role is?
My name is Catherine Geist, and I'm the new city planner for Burlington.
have a
Been here just
Yeah,
over.
if you want to pull the mic, pull up closer because you can't hear unless you talk pretty close
It's
to
pretty
it.
directional.
Okay. I'm Catherine Geist. I'm the new planner for Burlington. I've been here for just over 3 months now, so working pretty closely under Eric and getting things going.
With Eric unable to be here, you're getting to fill in for his role.
Very exciting.
And what
Thank
school did you go to?
Kansas State.
So won't hold that too much against you.
Thanks, Catherine.
All right, did we have any other input on the second?
No, we just want to make sure that we have a completed application as we move forward. We've worked with Downtown Partners, Southeast Iowa Regional Planning, Doug, with IEDA, staff from there as we've gone through this process to make sure that everyone's on board and on the same page through this. It's been pretty complicated over the last, years.
I was gonna
So.
say. All right, sounds good. Next, we have a public hearing, consideration of plans and specifications for the 2019 North End Odor Control Project at the Burlington, Iowa wastewater treatment facility.
Don, I've been eagerly awaiting this project.
Thank you all.
Yeah. Yep, sorry. What?
Do you want one of these?
You want an extra one? Oh,
No,
you're pretending that Shane is
Yep.
here.
attending.
All right. Thank you. So when I say next,
Got it. That's how this works.
that's how that works. That's
Welcome,
right.
Kat.
Right.
This is Dawn.
Stop.
Well, this better work.
It's 5 o'clock now, Don, so.
Yeah, keep track of time for me, would you?
Yep.
Let's get a better laser pointer. Okay.
Where's my other feature? I like the other one. It's not showing up bright enough. Okay, so this is the, regarding the 2019 North End Odor Control System. There's a picture of the wastewater plant off the GIS. That's the north end at the headworks. And that's the south end, the digester, the railroad bridge extends across the river in that general vicinity. So there's the north, there's the south. Next slide. Okay, the project is pertaining to the north end of the facility only. Again, there's the headworks. This yellow spot here, I'm going to talk a little bit more in detail about later, as I will this yellow spot here. Basically, the intent is to collect air from this area. These blue spots, which are within the headworks building, are pieces of equipment or wells which have turbulence associated with the process, which can release gas. There are 2 graded areas outside on our aerated grit removal systems, where again, there's turbulence due to the aeration and odors can escape the wastewater. This area is what we refer to as our C channel or combination channel. There are 8 wells that have grading over them. Again, turbulence. There's turbulence in our C channel area. Here is the lift station that was built with the 2012 improvements. There's a vent there. We have odors that can escape from there. And then finally, this is the 4th area for proposed treatment. These are our primary settling tanks. So the water enters the plant at the influent well, goes through 4 rotating screens, being sent to one of the 4 from the splitter box there. It flows in this direction through the grit removal, cascades out of the grit tanks into a channel and flows over to the lift station. It's pumped all the way over to a splitter box located here at the primary settling tanks, flows through at a very slow rate where sludge, heavy solids will settle to the bottom, grease and oils float to the top, and at this end, that's shaded blue, the water cascades over into troughs. There's, I think, 8 troughs associated with both the north and with the south primary. Flows in the direction to the splitter box here, and then goes to our biological process, the aeration tanks. So we basically have 4 areas: the influent well, inside the headworks building, outside in the general area of the combination channel and lift station, and finally the primary settling tanks. Next slide, please. This is a little bit closer view of the headworks building. Again, the dots representing areas where equipment can have odors come off of it. Tanks through grading can have odors come out. And the next slide. And this is again a closer view of the primary settling tanks. Mississippi River is over in this direction, again, north to south. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so our proposed schedule for the project, if approved and moving forward. The public hearing is to be on September 3rd. That's a Tuesday because of the holiday. We'll have bid openings on the 24th of September. We hope to be in a position to award bid on October 7th at that council meeting. Give the contractor notice to proceed on the 23rd of October. And then it takes a lot of time to place orders, get materials together for the suppliers to get the material here. We're hoping, and it's in the specifications, that we have a substantial completion by June 10th of 2020, and final completion before the end of the fiscal year on the 24th. Next slide. We do have an issue. The opinion of the probable construction cost is $498,000. That's for the construction. My budget for fiscal year 1920, the current, in the capital improvements program section, has an air scrubber, that's the project number there, $430,000. Now, I don't really understand why it's $430,000 because I had $475,000 for the last several years. I think what happened is I thought, well, engineering costs should come out of there. Most of the engineering costs were going to be paid during 18-19 fiscal year, and in fact, we've paid $60,000 to date. So we still have about $18,000 left on the engineering. And so I think what I did is I reduced it. Not a smart thing to do. That's my mistake. The city treasurer's report, which you may or may not have before you or have seen or will be seeing, has an account number of 5450. It's got the $498,317.42. So there is money available to cover the cost. Next slide, please. Why are there cost increases to the project construction? Well, number one is I added the plant influent wet well, which was not in the original plan. And then as well as there have been cost of material increases, 50 to 60% according to the engineer for many of the materials that are used in controlling the odors as part of this project. That original report was put together in April 2014 on the recommended means to control odor from the north end of the plant. And again, the influent wet well was not factored in to the original price. Next slide. So why do I have a yellow marking there? Again, that circle, that is the plant influent well. That well is about 2 stories high, and the wastewater comes into the plant at that location. And that was not part of the original study that was done. They looked at all the areas where we have turbulence, which is the typical place where gases are released. There's not really much turbulence in here in this well, and it was overlooked. And again, it's my responsibility to look at the report and ensure everything was there. I thought it was there, but in fact it was not. So that area is an area that was not in the original report, but it must be done. It's 2 stories high. We've had days where the wind is coming from the east or from the northeast, from the southeast. It's blowing across the top of that well. We don't know that we have odor issues, and yet the people who live up on South 3rd do know we have issues, and they call. And then we go around and walk around, and we go up there, and we find that we have issues out of that well. So it has to be part of the plan, the project. Next slide, please. This is a view of what it is. Like I said, it's about a 2-story high structure above grade. You climb an aluminum ladder up. You've got this staircase here. There's a weir wall. All the wastewater is on this side, the building side, the headwork side of that weir wall coming into the plant. Not much turbulence at all. On the other side, it's open, and that's actually where, if we had a bypass, the water would fill up that well, spill over the weir wall, and go out to the river. The project is to put a cover over this entire area and seal that off, have duct work penetrating the area beneath the cover, and draw the air to the air scrubber that is assigned to deal with the air being generated by that process. and that should take care of it. Next slide. In the finding that the cost estimate was significantly more than the money that I had in CIP, I talked to the engineers, and this, again, these are the primary settling tanks. This is the fourth process area that is reached by the wastewater that is part of the current plant. And that's blue area is there's going to be covers over those launderers, those troughs that the primary effluent spills into, goes to the splitter box and then onto the biological process. I said, well, what if we were not to do that particular area? How much money could we save? They indicated that they thought it would knock off from the total project price approximately $175,000 to $200,000. There's a lot of cost associated with covering up these tanks and treating the air, but they did not recommend that we do that. We do have odors that emanate from that plant. It is the fourth point through which the water is passing, so some of the gases have already been stripped out earlier, but it is still a source of odor, still has some hydrogen sulfide in it. And they suggested that you could do that, and you could do that to save money. You could possibly push that portion of the project into the next fiscal year, which I didn't want to do. They recommend that we stay with it and keep it in the project if we can cover the cost. Next slide. So our options are either to proceed as the plans and specs provide. We could cancel the project altogether, which I'm sure would make some people very happy. But the plant has been there for, well, the original plant was built in '59. The improvements were in '82, and then another set of improvements in 2010, 2012. So if the wind is blowing to the east, Illinois is getting it. When
That's all right.
when it's coming from the east, then people who live up on the bluff and in the surrounding area are affected. I did not look into putting a giant fan up there on the wet well in that area blowing towards Illinois. The other option would be, again, to reduce the scope. Next slide, please. Oh, there's nothing else on there?
That is it.
So you're saying it's $498,000,
That's right.
and you're saying we
That's-
have.
That's the engineer's opinion of probable
and
cost.
You're saying we have $498,000 in an account.
Well, and $300 more. I haven't figured out how I would spend that, but
Okay.
So,
Hold on,
so that $300 is his contingency.
Oh, God.
Well,
No,
you said
actually-
we had 18,000 left from the,
I have $7,000 in 5402-511 for engineering costs. So I'm
He's
about
already-
For this project,
$11,400
right?
short.
He's already, to some extent, covered a portion of the cost of this project instead of putting it, I don't know how it got coded to 5402 instead of 5450, but that's okay.
I have great power.
You do. If the 498,000 was funds that was left over from, originally from the 2012 building improvement. And I'm not sure where we ended up with $1 million ended up at that point, but we've spent on some projects, we've coded out of that as time has gone on. Other capital projects, we've coded out of your main operating account.
Right.
Typically with a project like this, if it were to come in over budget, we would recommend just doing a transfer from the operating account to this capital account to cover any of the shortfall. Your operating account, what does it have in it right now?
Couple $100,000.
5.7 million. So, I mean, he's got a significant amount of cushion there to cover if there's an overrun here, but typically, the projects that you have, you end up with budget shortfalls in other areas as well. He's most likely gonna end up being at the end of the year under budget in this account. If it were to be in a position where we had a concern, we'd recommend a budget amendment, but it's not like you're gonna be in a position where you're talking about not having the cash to cover it.
Okay.
So based on if the work needs done, I would say that the recommendation would be to get it done if it comes in at a reasonable cost.
The annual O&M operation and maintenance costs for the system, once it's in place, they're estimating between $14,000 and $16,000 a year. That would be to replace the activated carbon material that is in the air scrubbing units. There's a total of 5 air scrubbing units that are scattered throughout the site. Changes to those locations, changes to duct work and some conduit that we wanted to see implemented from the original plan, added also to those additional costs.
You're good, James? Council, we good?
Good.
Proceed.
Proceed would be
Thanks,
the
Don.
way to go.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Don.
Number 4 is resolution authorizing purchase of real property locally known as 123 North 5th Street, Burlington, Iowa. Where's Tisdale?
Where is Tisdale when you need them?
I have this down as you, Jim.
Yeah, I bet you do. So I don't have, there's a map that's, oh, you do have a map that you can put up.
Yep.
Thank you. I was gonna give you one that was very comparable to
That's okay.
actually that one. This is a topic that's been talked about for well over 2 years. Jesse, were you involved in this originally when the developer originally came and talked about rehabbing the 2 facilities, the one right across the street, which is the, all I can think of is Shram. What is that?
It's the old
Scarabs.
Hopefully Yours.
The old Hopefully Yours building, and then the one a block to the east of there. When the developer had originally come, he was looking at about 110 spots, I think, to develop between the 2 facilities. We've seen designs on this structure, the first one, in the building department. I think they're looking at 37 in that neighborhood, residential units in the first phase. I guess, Jesse, you haven't looked at it, your dad has. And the second phase is tentatively in the 50-unit basis. So I think right now, the current design would have them a little bit lower than what they'd originally had for residential units overall. We haven't had permits pulled yet for that project, so it's not like we're in a position where they are looking to need spots immediately. But we did commit 2 years ago when that developer came to town that we would do our best efforts to try to acquire a way to meet their parking needs for their housing units. At the time, they were looking at a need for 110 total units. They're at a spot where they're not going to be needing that many units, and we've actually have 2 different parking lot scenarios, one with 104 spaces that Catherine's put up there. There's another one that Jesse, not this Jesse, our Jesse had done with, I think, more like 75 units in it for an alternative. We're not looking to, again, spend that money until we know that they're moving forward with their project. But we do need to get the space acquired before we can actually worry about construction. The agreement that you have before you from BNSF to sell this land, which took a year and a half to get to where we have it, would be to sell us the land for $62,500. I hate doing all of this on memory. And then I think there's a $2,000 processing fee to consider the application.
Right on.
There are a couple of limitations within here that have been noted by the attorney. Just so that you understand that there are some limitations to think through and be cognizant of. It's being sold by quitclaim deed, not a warranty deed, which puts a little bit more risk on us. They are at the same time doing a property search for us to make sure that they don't see any other issues. I mean, the biggest issue that that property has is what's identified in the fact that there was a underground storage tank formerly on that site. And it does place limitations, which is why there is a requirement for no wells for the next 100 years on the site.
But they do have the certificate, though.
That,
Right.
yep, and that's, I think that was included in the packet, no further action requirement with the underground storage tank. They do have another process in there, it's a 6-month clearance period, where it gives them 6 months to get any mortgage liens that they might have against their cleared, and if they're unable to get it, they have the right for that property to revert back to them. That would be where, if we were looking to try to move forward very quickly to start construction on a new parking lot, it would cause some concerns to be spending too much money prior to that 6 months being over. Which is part of why I mentioned that we haven't had a permit pulled yet. We're not under an immediate timeline
Okay.
on that piece to get something happening. So that 6-month time delay is not a major concern on our part. We're also not in a position where we've even started a process of going out to bid, so, I mean, we'd have a delay anyway. The other limitation that they place on here of note would be that the only usage of that land for the next 99 years would be for a parking lot. Well, that's kind of what we're intending to use it for, but essentially, they don't want to see a building go up next to the railroad tracks. Any development that they can keep from happening adjacent to their tracks, they're happy to see, so.
Now, the drawing, Jim, shows from 5th to basically 6th, but we're also talking about that little triangle piece that goes all the way over to 7th, isn't that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
And
That's what was in the packet.
it's in the packet, and I don't know if you can pull that up, Kathy.
Yeah, I've got it. I just wanted to make sure. For those that didn't have the packet.
It was, I'm not sure even what page that's on.
Page 51 in the packet.
So
I don't have,
you don't have the ability to pull that up.
I don't have the packet.
But it is in the packet for anyone who's looking. You can look on page 51, and it outlines the land owned by the railroad. It's delineated in green. The hatched area on there is what we're purchasing from them for the 62.5. And I don't know what else to give to you. This has been something that we've talked about, again, for 2 years. And we'll have, if you do move forward with this purchase, we'll have more discussions about it in the future.
Okay.
You guys good?
Good.
Yes.
Number 5 is resolution approving planning option agreement for the former police department building at 424 North 3rd Street.
This is one, I miss how much Eric normally does during the course
Quit
of
your
the meeting.
grind and get on with it, James.
We had been in a position to look at demolishing this structure, actually have funds borrowed to do that. And then we had Zach, or was it Zach and Jesse, who came forward and said, wait a minute, we want to market this. But the two of them worked on marketing this site for possible redevelopment. We gave a period of a couple of months for proposals to come in. Merge is one that I think at least looked at it. Brent, was that true? That you,
Yeah.
during that time frame, didn't submit a proposal within that time frame, but was one of those that has continued to discuss what could potentially be done. And now what you see before you is kind of him looking at what he could potentially do on this site. Brent, would you come forward, I guess, and kind of present what your proposal is and how this would work if you were to be successful in moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for your time tonight. Put together a little slide. As mentioned, we looked at the RFP originally. We're doing opportunity zone developments throughout the Midwest, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, Missouri. And we looked at it, saw it was an opportunity zone, and sometimes when it's an RFP process, it's just we choose to wait to see if it's going to be answered or unanswered, and see if there may be still a need for our firm. So what we're asking here tonight is an exclusive time period to negotiate. We've actually looked at the site in depth and put together a little bit of a rendering what could be there, and so I want to go through just a brief presentation. All right. What button moves it forward? The arrow? Is there some familiarity with the Opportunity Zone program? Yes. Great. So the Tax Act of 2017 put together a map of opportunity zones throughout the country, and MERGE was built on that, on going after projects in the opportunity zone, and it aligns with us socially and for how we believe that cities should develop with walkable areas, with retail on the first floor and housing above. So a little bit about us. My partner Joy is in Madison. I'm in Cedar Falls.
Who took your picture?
Who did take my? The Waterloo Courier took that picture.
Really nice, man.
It look a lot better there than I do in person. So, it's a really interesting law, and it puts together three different types of groups that normally aren't put together at the beginning of a project when you start talking about development. So usually it's just a developer lining up a site and then they work through the rest. Well, the opportunity zones require not just a developer, they need a developer with experience, because the opportunity zone, you have to hold it for 10 years in order to get all the benefits of the opportunity zone. And so that's something that most developers don't do. Usually you build and you sell. I've been developing for over 10 years. I currently own over 1,000 units throughout Iowa, and I build to keep, which is rare with developers. And so Skydeck, which is our capital partner in Chicago, they have a very large amount of capital gains, which is the second thing you need. You need a group with a large amount of capital gains, and usually that's not a developer, and if it is, they're not wanting to hold something for 10 years. So Skydeck and us have formed a partnership with a goal of, we've put together a goal of about $500 million in projects in 2020 and 2021. And then the third thing, which is what I'm asking from you, is a city that's willing and ready to participate. So have done some of that legwork, and not just have the opportunity zone designation, but to actually have some thought, whether it's through having a TIF together and having a council that's willing to participate. Because even when we're looking in Des Moines or Madison, even at that level, where there's always a TIF ask to make the project a possibility. So what we do, first we look for a site, and we came to town, it was cold, so it was a while ago, and we looked at a lot of different sites. We actually toured much of the downtown and looked at even the site that was up earlier, just in case that would maybe become available. And anyway, we've really locked in on this site being a great spot in the middle of a lot of the action, and be able to have great views of the water. Number two is what we're asking to have this exclusive time period for, is to talk about a deal structure. So we're an open book. We'll show you exactly what we've agreed to with other cities, and that'd be the next part of the process, and see where, if we could find a match for what your city and us could come to agreement on a development. And if not, we're happy to end that and give it back to you. If we think we have a rough outline of a deal, we really lock into a community engagement. We've done some of that already here, and have talked to some local leaders and some people with great familiarity with the area and what is needed. But we usually spend a day or two with local leaders to make sure we're hitting the mark with what we're delivering with our building. And then we're hoping to be part of a revitalization. I know that maybe a week or two ago you talked about a possible hotel. There was an exciting project, number one on the agenda and so we want to not just be one of the projects, we want to be a part of an entire revitalization of a downtown core. We are market rate developers, but within that we design a variety of housing types, from a micro apartment all the way up to a 2-bedroom in a building. So within that we create what is known as currently attainable housing. So we might be able to get a doctor on a 2-bedroom, but at the same time, maybe someone that's waiting the table downstairs at the restaurant would also be able to afford a unit in our building and have a great mix of incomes and different types of people in the building. We start first with people, so we don't think about the car first. It's kind of an afterthought. And that's why we develop in cores and urban cores. If you have a chance to look on our website, that's what we talk about. We want to be first. How are people going to walk around the site? How are people going to walk to other places in your downtown? And then number 2 would be the bike. How are they going to bike around? How are they going to access the bike trail? How are they going to? Hopefully, they'll never need that car. And then number 3 is a car. We still live in Iowa, so we think about it somewhat, but I say we are not necessarily for everyone, right? So we're not talking about a suburban development with a lot of garages and parking spots. So it's a little bit different, and it doesn't work for everyone, but you'll be surprised on how many people that actually does appeal to. Our favorite city planner, so did a lot of work in Copenhagen, and just love public spaces, and all the favorite places of that, at least my favorite places, are usually in the center and in public spaces. These are some things that we live by, think about daily, whether it's books or the Economic Innovation Group. And you can find out just about everything that you need to know about us on LinkedIn. And that's my contact information. Like I said, we put together a plan for this site already to make sure that we have something that will work, and we do. But we asked for this planning period to bring that back, bring that as a deliverable. And if that is something that looks good to you, to keep on moving through the process. The state of Iowa just passed a law to bring back the workforce housing tax credit. Those applications will be due or will start to be accepted July 1 of 2020. So as far as timing goes, that is a big part of what makes this a possibility, and that will make our ask less on your side. So it's going to be a very competitive process. And so we want to get that project in line, which is part of the requirements to make the application at the state next year. So thank you so much for your time. I'd love to take any questions that you may have.
Council, questions?
You had me at walkability. Reduce the car. You had me.
Great.
I'm on.
I looked right over you. I was like, no cars?
How long are you talking as far as for the exclusive option?
4 months and then an extended period of 4 months.
4 months
Yeah.
and 4? Okay.
Yeah, but the deliverable we'll be bringing in that first 4 months would be a design, which
Okay.
normally we wouldn't be as far as we are today. I plan to bring that in the next couple of months, to be
Okay.
completely honest.
I thought I heard you say 4, I just wanted.
Yep. mhm.
Do we have any costs over the next 4 months that we need to worry about that aren't realized? I mean,
The only-
we're heating and cooling that building, I'm
Yes,
assuming.
we're maintaining you're getting to absorb within the PD's budget for making sure the elevator certifications keep up, and some of those other items. They're there, but, we've been doing it for the last year, and we are sitting on the background, looking to just do a straight demo on this project. If we're able to have a project put together that, are you looking at a demo on this side, or?
Yeah, it would be a ground up. So we'd be hopefully working with you to demo this building and the building adjacent to this, which is never our first. That was one of the reasons why we weren't comfortable with the RFP, because if ideally someone local wanted to redevelop the buildings, we would have rather seen that for your town. We believe in keeping what is, but we are definitely ground up developers, and since that wasn't answered the first time, it sounded like it was going to get demoed either way, so that's when we were willing to come forward.
Yeah, and when Brent originally came to town, they were pretty straightforward that you would like to do things from the ground up. But with this project, it causes us to delay any steps that we might take, but if we have an end sight or end vision in sight, it's worth it if we have some operational costs and risk those operational costs that we have to do for the maintenance of the facility until we get to that final decision. Why do we continue to maintain? Well, if we don't move through with this process and during that same time frame you have someone comes forward that might want to rehab the project or the building, we don't want to eliminate that potential too. So, but yes, there's 2 timeframes in here. The first 4 months for $1,000 and the option to extend the existing agreement for an additional 4 months for $5,000. And if you look at the language in here, it's very similar to the language that was with the hotel agreement. I think that we took Brent's, modified it some.
Yeah, you borrowed it.
So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks, pal.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm good.
I'm good too.
Yeah,
Appreciate
I'm
it.
glad to hear that it's gonna be a demo and rebuild, just because that building in particular, it was obvious why we had to have the police department move out of it.
Yeah.
So I think that's a smart idea. And, we do love to see buildings rehabbed, but we also have to accept when they cannot.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you so much.
I
Appreciate
love
your
the
time.
attainable living concept. I think that's pretty groovy, so I'm looking to see how that pans out. But
Great, excellent.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks for your interest.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for your
you.
time. Okay. Number 6 is a resolution providing for a salary adjustment for the city manager. I'll take that one. I changed that up because really, if you guys go to your packet, it's just coming down to, yeah, thank you. It's just coming down to the increase. Everybody else got the 2.25%. Either we're going to say yeah or no. So we just decided to move forward with that. So you guys will just be able to vote on the 2.25, yes or no.
Okay.
Okay, so to the proposed consent agenda, number 1 is a resolution approving nuisance abatements for various departments. We're good.
Yes.
Number 2 is a resolution approving purchase for the replacement of damaged HESCO flood barriers. Nick McGregor.
Good evening. The resolution in front of you would authorize the purchase of HESCO barriers to replace the ones that have been damaged in the flooding events that we saw this spring. As you remember, we ordered 200 of them in March. We deployed a pretty good portion of them. Until we get the flood wall section for the north and south tie-off, we need to have enough in stock to be able to protect us. That project is slated for next construction year, but it will take some time in between now and then to accomplish that. So we need to have some replaced. FEMA will likely replace the replacement amount that we expended or were damaged during the flood events in the spring. So that's why we're asking for 170 to be replaced. So the 59,000, we actually got the shipping bills. It comes out to 61,200 and some for replacement of the 170 HESCO barriers. I can answer any questions if you have any.
Jimmy, you got anything you want to add on that?
We'll be talking with FEMA tomorrow a little bit about this
Correct.
order.
Yeah, we'll be talking about this and a bunch of the cleanup and debris removal, and this, all of our setup costs. We'll be meeting with them for several hours tomorrow, so.
And we may adjust this order down depending on how that conversation goes, or
Depending on the amount that they're gonna be willing to replace. I think that from the last time that we've spoken, they wanna replace the amount that was damaged. They won't,
This is the high
replace
number.
more than what you
Yes.
used.
Okay.
Okay. So we go with that? That's the high
Yep.
high
Yes.
estimate? Okay. All right. Number 3 is a resolution authorizing staff to inform American Water Resources that the city of Burlington does not desire to renew our contract with American Water Resource for additional 5 years. Jimmy?
This is based on the conversation that we had at the last work session, just sort of reviewing the past 10 years. We've had, I think, pretty good service from them, but the questions and concerns have been raised over the confusion that's caused by mailings. And that's probably been the biggest trade-off, and one that the council has had to try to figure out what's the right option for our community as a whole. Based off of that discussion at the previous work session, it seemed the council was willing to let this contract terminate.
Council?
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of people, they get that mailer and they think it's something official from the city. So if that mailer would change somewhat, I think we have had good service from them, but this is the first step.
Have we not inquired
We've
to
talked
find
with
out
them
if they're
about
willing to change
They're
it?
not gonna change their
the last time that we went through this, 5 years ago, there were concerns that were raised about the mailers at that point, and they did make a little bit of modifications, but really it's just some minor wording. The thing that really confuses is the use of our logo, and that's really what they are selling off of, is the
Yeah.
use of the logo.
Okay?
We satisfied?
Yep.
Number 4 is a resolution approving termination and reversion of the real estate purchase agreement concerning property locally known as 424 North 3rd Street, City of Burlington.
So
James.
as we went through the process of asking the attorney to review the contract with Merge, one of the things they did was brought up, hey, we filed, or had you file the previous agreement that you had done with the hotel group. And you see the information in your packet is, shows what was filed the last time. They have agreed to go ahead and do what we had originally agreed with, which was they had 6 months in which to perform a demolition and construction of a hotel. If it didn't happen, they agreed to revert the property back to us for $1. They're willing to sign off and take care of that step, but we need authorization from you to now do that purchase agreement to get whatever the language is that's on the abstract removed and make it clear that we have clear title to that site.
Cool with that, Tisland?
Sounds-
And I know that I'm not the one who did any of the discussions on this. That was between the attorney and Eric, and so.
Right, yeah, I have a statement from them if you'd like me to read it, but I'm not sure if you have that in your packets already.
It isn't, I think it is.
Yeah, it's in there.
Kyle from.
Yeah, Kyle Sunheim, the attorney with Lynch Dallas. The quitclaim deed is needed here. While the city still retains ownership, the purchase agreement, even with the agreement to terminate, still clouds the title. By providing the quitclaim deed, Trinity is essentially saying whatever interest it might have, it is transferring it to the city. Recording the resolution, termination agreement, and deed will provide anyone reviewing the abstract the story behind the ownership. So.
Okay,
Satisfied?
I am.
All right. Number 5, resolution approving an amended agreement between the City of Burlington and the Burlington, West Burlington Area Chamber of Commerce for use of the Port of Burlington by the Chamber. What do you want?
Chelsea was here at the last work session to discuss changes in the space usage at the port. She was looking to see the Iowa Store's footprint, the former Iowa Store's footprint, incorporated within the chamber's usage. And the council had agreed to allow that to happen along with the sale of retail items, that they can coordinate that within their operations. And in fact, I think you probably had some discussions about whether that was something before. It made sense it makes sense from their perspective in terms of operations. You're staffing the site already. The sales down there, if you were to look at what we saw for sales based off of collections of rent, were about $70,000 a year, which, I mean, it's not nothing, but it's not a major thing, and something that makes it easy to structure staffing a site and making a profit. Based off of the discussion at the last meeting, the council seemed amenable to allowing the chamber to reconfigure their usage of space down there to also take into account usage of the Iowa Store space. And if you read through the agreement, right now it says that the termination would be through three years from September 1, 2019. We're going to change that for next week. It'll go, our current agreement with the Convention and Visitors Bureau is for 3 years. It expires June 30th, 2021. We'll maintain that date. We want it needs to go with a fiscal year, because the way the distribution of funds goes, if we tried to do that at anything other than a fiscal year end, it would create major confusion with their.
Confusing enough.
Yes. So that will change in what you get for the version for next week. If, also note that it has language in there about a subsequent lease agreement that will be drawn up for use of space. Even though this document references that you will be running a store or running a site at the port, there isn't a formal lease in place, and Patrick felt that it was important to get a lease put in place as we move forward. So that'll be coming at a subsequent meeting.
You fine? You still
Sorry.
got anything else you want to say on that?
Did you want me to say anything else on
No.
it?
You cool with that, Tisland? Council, we good?
We're good.
Okay. All right, Chelsea, you want to leave? Is that what you came down here for? All right, well, it's good to see you. All right. Number 6 is resolution of support for application to Iowa Economic Development Authority Main Street Iowa Challenge Grant. James?
I'll actually turn this over to Steve to kind of run through the process. We annually pretty much annually have been submitting an application on behalf of our community through the Iowa Economic Development Authority for the challenge grant. Do you want to kind of talk about how that process works, what is a Main Street community, how that fits within that, and where this year's application fits within what we do on an annual basis?
So as a Main Street community, one of 53, 54 in the state, we are eligible to apply for a Main Street Challenge Grant once a year, provided the legislature funds it, to do a bricks and mortar project in our downtown. And that's something that's available to us as a Main Street community, not just every community in Iowa gets to do this. Each Main Street can apply on behalf of one project. Not all the Main Street communities will apply, but there's a maximum of one application per community. And so we kind of publicize this. I think this has been funded the last 5 or 6 years by the state. And we've been really fortunate to get a challenge grant most of the years that we've applied. This year we had one applicant, and that is for the second phase of the building at 500 Jefferson, Burlington Bent River Brewing Company. The second floor is partially finished up, but it's been unused and unusable because of ADA compliance concerns, and the bathrooms, kitchen space, electric and lighting have not been finished out. Recently, my understanding is that Larry Kasten attended a seminar, went to some kind of workshop where they talked about use of space in existing historic buildings. And it turns out that because the mezzanine, the rear mezzanine of that building is ADA compliant, the adjacent second floor, the entire top floor, is also kind of lumped in with that. So challenge grant application is to put in the lights, plumb the bathrooms, put in the prep kitchen, add some outlets, build a stage, make it so Bent River can actually use their entire second floor as a special event venue for rentals, receptions, things like that. They've had a lot of inquiries for that, and up until this code interpretation, they really haven't been able to do anything with this space. So I want to say it's about a $35,000, $40,000 project. They'll have to front a minimum of 50% of that cost. It's challenge grant is a matching grant process. So they submitted their application, their proposal to the Downtown Partners Board. Like I said, it was the only one. We accepted it. And one of the provisions of going ahead and making this application to IEDA is that we need the council to sign off on it. Requires no funding from the council, just kind of your stamp of approval.
There's no liability on the council either, so.
No.
Done.
This, even though in the packet you'll see the estimated cost, $34,035, she still had a couple of estimates that she was working on at the time that this was submitted.
Right.
So the final number that gets submitted might be a tad higher than this, but it's within thousands.
Yeah. And our application, so similar to CDBG, Downtown Partners is the grant applicant and recipient, and Bent River would be the subrecipient. And our application is due to IEDA on the 20th. That's why we're kind of pushing this forward.
Yeah, I heard Becky describe this place, and it gets fixed up, it's gonna be very nice. So I'm excited.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Discussion items. Number 1, Treasurer's Report. Annette, Class of 87.
Okay, in the packet again was 2 treasurers' report. I'm still working on June. What you see in June as far as revenues is through the end of July, what I've accrued back, so I'll have another month yet where I'm looking at what belongs back to last year to accrue back. The expenditures are actually through August 15th, so we'll have another claims, anything that will be on this next claims that should go back, will go back. So that's kind of, we're still in flux. We haven't made all the transfers. We have some that we typically do at the very end to true things up. The other treasurer's report is my July. So if you're looking at it, you'll notice there's not a lot of revenues because a lot of July's revenues go back to June. So, I mean, I don't know if you guys have any concerns or questions about anything that you see.
If the fund balances are negative, is that because the transfers haven't been made yet?
So like property, so it depends on which ones you're looking at.
I'm looking specifically at the Market Angular South.
Okay, that's within the sewer fund, and we haven't made the transfer to
Okay.
true
So
that up.
That's
You
what I
have-
figured it was, but I wanted to
Yeah.
ask.
You have two different pieces there. We have some that will get trued up in terms of a transfer from the Cascade
Correct.
Project Fund over to the Mazel Project Fund.
And
But
that's an
you-
interfund, that's
That's,
kind of
that's an
interfund.
interfund that just, it's
Correct.
all for sewer separation. So we just have to change it from one account to another. But you also have a timing issue.
So our internal service funds, like property maintenance.
No, that's
and-
not what I meant for timing on that one. The
Oh.
Mazel is one that you're using SRF, State Revolving Loan
Correct.
Fund.
So we will
So you're
have-
always gonna have the expenditures, then go after reimbursement for it through
Okay.
the time that we finish this Locust
So
Basin
it's like a
project.
first to pay kind of thing.
Right, and then there's a couple funds that we true up at the very end. We'll look at what's there because they're internal service funds, and they will zero out at the end of June.
Property maintenance and vehicle maintenance still had some
They
deficits.
do. Well, one of them has a positive and one's a
Positive.
deficit, so it's just because I haven't made my final, because I wait for all the expenditures to come through and revenues to make sure that we have the right balance at the end before I true up.
But again, and then, I don't know if there's any other funds that are in a deficit outside of primarily the project funds that are, we have some there that are still
Correct.
a lot, any of them that are still there would be timing issues and needing to close them out, but we're just not to a point
Right.
to close them
Like our
out.
street projects, our Agency Street East and West, there's retainage. We're in the process of trying to close some of those projects out, so that money will come in. It just is a timing thing.
The other deficit account is the miscellaneous clearing fund, which is the flood account.
Correct.
So we've incurred, you can look at that, we started that year, the year with 200,000, and we're sitting at 200,000 in a hole. Not all of that is flood prep and flood cleanup. We had a couple of projects that we had done during the year for about, I think, 70,000 or so. But we've spent about $330,000 on flood fighting efforts, whether it was prevention ahead of time or cleanup afterwards, that we're going to be waiting for some period of time to see where FEMA reimbursement process ends us out.
You guys satisfied? Thanks, Annette.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Annette.
Discussion item number 2, Dankwart Park Pool Project.
Again, Eric isn't here, but I think that just know what the status is of what the group is, where you're at, and what your current request or petition is for the council to consider.
Good afternoon, or I guess good evening. We hope you had a chance to review the information that we included in your packets. Just trying to get as much information to you as we can so you can make a decision. When we started this project, the idea was to enhance our current city pool and make it available year-round. We had no way of knowing that this would have any effect on the baby pool. When the final plans were submitted to the state for approval, it was at that point that we learned that the code change that required a separate recirculation system for the baby pool, and that current system had been grandfathered in. Unfortunately, a separate recirculation system is estimated to cost $150,000. The only option that we have found to avoid the cost of the new system is to replace the baby pool with a splash pad. One possible solution for funding of that would be for the city to apply for a CAT grant. At this point, we need to know if this is something that the city wants to explore. I talked to several splash pad companies and sent you examples with estimated prices based on the current size of the baby pool. We have worked very hard over the last few years to raise money for this project, and we would hate to see it come to an end, but we also understand this financial situation of the city. We are definitely not trying to put the city into make a decision, but we also need to know how to proceed. We feel that we have substantial support in the community and have raised $600,000 from local businesses, organizations, foundations, and individuals. We've also received a $100,000 grant from the Wellmark Foundation, not Walmart, Wellmark Foundation. This was the second year that we had applied for this grant, and we feel very fortunate to have received it. And at this point, we just need to know your feedback and how you want us to proceed.
Council, John, were you going to say something?
No.
Okay. Council?
Well, I'll go first. It's unfortunate, but I'll, after asking people and doing, which I told you, Michelle, I would, I'm reluctant to eliminate the baby pool. Because it's a different level of learning and it is used. So that would be where I'm at. I mean, I don't want to scuttle the project, but I would be reluctant to replace it, so. And I realize that we don't have the funds in place to do that at this point in time. And unfortunately, for you guys, the city won't really have to do that until we do a major improvement.
Sadly, I graduated with John Frayling, class of '87. He's a good man. So I hate to say no to good people, but I have to make common sense decisions, and I can't do it either. I have too many people that rely on the baby pool. They love that thing, and I didn't get one person actually that said that they don't care about the baby pool. Well, I take that back. One person did, but they said they're too old to go swimming out in a bathing suit, so they don't care about any of it. So, no, I wish it wasn't so black and white on this, but I've got to. Yeah.
Now, John actually took a poll, and most of the people cited in favor of the splash pad because there are other options that people can use in the community if they have younger children that want to swim.
Well, that was the public part. The problem was I had a lot of PMs, private messages, because I put it on Facebook. That's how everybody communicates. So
I still think the pool bubble project would benefit more families and more people long-term. It's going to be a bigger draw for families to come to our community. Look at like Sean Johnson. They built that state-of-the-art gymnastic facility in West Burlington, and they come. It attracts families from all over the world. People are looking for sports programs. They don't move to a community because it has a baby pool. I would hate to see this project get sidetracked. It would break my heart. And a lot of people put a lot of energy, a lot of legwork into this project. I think we as a council would be ashamed of ourselves if we let this project go.
So I guess I'm in a position, a week ago, I was not a fan of eliminating the baby pool at all. I've taken the opportunity to talk to as many people as I can regarding it. One of the biggest problems I have is we don't have a lot of information. We don't know what a real cost for a splash pad is going to be. We don't know what the additional cost is going to be to operate a splash pad over a swimming pool. There's going to be a reduction possibly in chemicals, but at the end of the day, if we're pumping water out that works its way into a sewer system, we got to pay for that. I'm okay with compromising and moving towards a splash pad at that area. I guess personally, I'm not a fan of a splash pad in there. I'd just say eliminate the baby pool in its entirety. There are other options in the community, and I thought about what my wife and I have done over the last 5 years since we have little kids. We haven't used the baby pool there. I'd be lying if I told you we did. We've gone to West Burlington because it's a zero entry pool, and the little kids and most of the people that I know do the same thing. That's not a zero entry pool, so it makes it more difficult to use. So I think at the end of the day, that facility would be better used if it could be used 365 days a year. I think it would provide a better opportunity to swimmers in our area. I'm not a swimmer, but a lot of people are. So you guys have done a good job of going out and getting support, and so I commend you for that. If the compromise is it's got to be a splash pad, then I think I'm okay with that. If it makes sense just to eliminate that pool, I think I'm probably okay with that as well. And again, for the reason being, I feel like most people in the community use other facilities than that facility for those types of needs.
I'm really bummed that Annie took off because we need a third. Because I hate to delay this. I really am. I almost want to slip out and give her a call because I don't want to delay this, but I'm not, I can't move on it. Again, I'd love to say I'll change my mind, but I'm not. I think the baby pool's a necessity. So I'm locked in on that.
The other thing, hold on, let me finish. The other thing I'll say is you guys expressed the interest of trying to go out and raise the funds to cover the costs of the splash pad, correct? Is that?
Well, we've said that we would help, if somebody's going to apply for a CAT grant, that would need to be the city. We've been through that process once, and they don't want to talk to people like us. They want the city to apply, or a government entity to apply for that CAT grant. So what we're asking is if the council is willing to switch to a splash pad, basically nothing would happen until either a CAT grant was, or other funding source was found or not.
You guys have already said it. We're not in the financial position to take large sums of money and put it towards this project when it's not a necessary project. So
Understood.
I'm okay compromising, moving towards a splash pad or nothing there. But at the
If
end
somebody
of the
else could pay for it.
you guys will have to do a lot of the legwork in the financial part of that.
I guess I don't understand, because I'm not smart enough to understand what the difference between a baby wading pool recirculation-wise and a splash pad is.
That you're not recirculating the water.
No, you're not recirculating.
You don't
water.
recirculate the water.
It's going through a different deal. Well, for the record, I'd rather have a splash pad out there than I would on the river.
And I'm going to say this too. Let's not get it twisted. I know that, and I respect that you go out to West Burlington, wherever, and that a lot of people go out there, but a lot of people I know still go out there and use the.
Absolutely.
So, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying
I'm
that
not
all
saying
the
people
I
There
know
needs to be,
would
if
really
the
say
pool's
use
going
it.
to be
I'm
there,
just-
there needs to be an amenity for small kids,
Right.
without a doubt.
It is, and there's a lot of people that rely on that. They really look forward to, and they say that's the only place that we can go. So I just.
A
wanna
lot
make
of
that-
cities have gone away from baby pools. They either go to a zero-entry baby pool, typically attached to the main pool, or a splash pad, just for this very reason that we're talking about, to get away from these dual recirculation systems.
And I've seen splash pads that have a combination of zero entry
Yeah,
style
and-
pool in it, but it's not recirculating water.
There's examples that you can flip through them. I think these are all in your packet, that you can create, a splash pad is a very vague statement. You can make anything out of these. Granted, some of it comes down to cost of water over time and all those things, but all that would have to be worked out. But what it comes down to is, what is the next step, Jim? Do we ask for a vote from council would council switch to consider the option of a splash pad, or how does this work?
I think you'd want to know if they're willing to do it. Part of a CAT, and I don't know the requirements completely on a CAT grant. The last one we did had a 25-year maintenance of all the items that were part of the funding package. So in this instance, you'd be.
I'm not going to speak for CAT grant, but when we went up, there were no, that didn't exist. That question came up when we applied, and there was never.
We have to maintain the auditorium until 2026 for operations as an auditorium. If not, we're subject to repayment of the CAT grant. And you need to know whether that's on there, if there's any time frame like that there's a requirement. CAT grant if that does, then you have to be thinking through the process of, you have a pool that has a liner that was put in it 3 years ago that has a 10 to 15 year life expectancy. And the expectation is then you need to do a full pool replacement to continue. And the council's already going to be in a position to have to make a determination, how are you moving forward then,
And that doesn't
whether to close
include-
or not. But you may now put yourself into a position where you have to redo it if you've taken the money. So, I mean, you just need to know the answers to some of those pieces too.
And that doesn't include things like the deck replacement and pump replacements
How,
or heater replacements. And the reason why I switched was, if we're gonna make that type of investment into the facility and keep it, I'd like to see it used to its maximum potential, and we can't do that if it's only open 4 or 5 months of the year.
3. It's only open from
or
Memorial
3
Day
months
till
a year.
closed right now.
It's a pool. I mean, no
no,
offense,
I-
but it's been a pool, so nobody's been
Yeah.
running pools during the winter time. It's an outdoor pool.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's what we've been doing. So, dude, I love your idea. Again, I'm not trying to poo-poo on that. I just want to find a way that we can accommodate you and still keep the outside and preserve that, that little kiddie pool. I didn't hear back from MPT, so I really would like to know where she stands on this. So where are we at as far as delaying this, James?
You can bring it back to the next work session. I mean, I don't know what you're supposed to do other than that.
Can we
You
put-
have a 2 and 2 here. You can put it on the agenda to move forward with something, but we don't even know what we're moving forward with
I
right
know,
now.
I know.
Yeah.
So can we,
But what the point is, we don't want these folks, well, they've already invested a huge amount of time. If they don't think there's a chance in heck that we're gonna do a splash pad, and it looks to me like right now we're 50-50, then I wouldn't blame you if you didn't want to investigate anymore. If we're 50-50, what we need to know is what Jim said. We need to know, okay, what's the proposal? And what would be, what would be recommended as far as cost-wise? And the CAT answer, do we have to maintain it for the 25 years?
And part of what you need to think through, you already have funding for one splash pad in a location where it's free for use.
right on.
And you're now talking about doing 2 splash pads in town, in the second one and one in an area that you have to pay to enter. And, I mean, I know it's then attached to the pool, but what's,
And
think through make sure that you're understanding that how the different places fit together and what are you trying to accomplish with that.
And there's that we know of, no money available for to retain the wading pool, as far as like a different grant or
No,
source that we could sort out?
and the reason that this is being recommended even for CAT purposes, the CAT grant is looking at what are attractive things, and a splash pad is more what is in at this point
Yeah, about the same
than what
as
a baby pool is.
On the CAT grant thing, the reason we're saying we can help you apply, and I think it needs to be the city finding out do you have to pay back or do you not? Because what they've told us is, no, you don't. So if we don't want to go off of what they told us, then someone from the city needs to find out and take their word for it.
Or Southeast Iowa Regional Planning could help
Yeah.
with that project.
I think we're kind of putting the cart before the horse there. We just got to
Yeah,
figure out
yeah,
if we're
yeah.
going to be willing to
But
do the splash pad.
why we're saying that is because we can tie the splash pad in with the whole project. So then your percentage is gonna be what would cover the splash pad.
We're getting so close, we just need $70,000.
Again,
I don't
I'm
want to
willing
throw
to compromise.
$600,000 away.
I can't support anything that's going to take put any more expense on the city's side.
And you don't know that you've accomplished everything that needs done. We haven't had an application go in for that has the modifications in. We know that the issue with the recirculation is something that's come up just in initial review, but we don't have they haven't had a formal review and said if there are other things that need to be a part of this process too. So that was something that Eric wanted to make sure that was noted, that you still don't know what the full scope is of things that need done.
Yeah, it's unfortunate we didn't have this information prior.
And there's no way the health department will waive that ruling?
They might postpone it, but do you really want to tear up the new concrete in order to go back and spend the money at that point?
Yeah.
So they'd only postpone it. They said that they could postpone it up to 5 years, but then you're going back 5 years later and tearing everything up. So it's going to be more expensive than doing it originally.
And it is, excuse me, our understanding, I mean, at some point, originally you had it budgeted to replace the concrete in 2021, which at the time when we started talking, it was 5 years out. So, but it's our understanding that when that time comes, to replace the concrete or any work that you do to that concrete, this is going to come up again, this recirculation system with the baby pool, because you're grandfathered in to this clause now. So as soon as you do work on the concrete, even without this project, my understanding, and I wish
Anything more
if
than
Eric were
patch.
here, he could tell us for sure. But
Something that Eric mentioned too, we've done some piecemeal replacement as we've needed to, which is until we do a major repair, what we'd continue to do. And while we're doing those piecemeal things, we're not having to do that recirculation.
It's one,
But as long
yeah,
as we
you can
keep
patch.
piecemeal until
You
we
can
get ready to
patch.
replace the whole system.
But, I mean, whenever you have to do that, it's something that Eric will be trying to build into a CIP where you fit it in and prioritize with other projects that are out there. Doing it now is putting it into, I mean, if we're doing it, is putting it into a position where
it's
you're
really more than
pushing
the
something
100.
out that you've already committed to.
It's really potentially more than the 150, because you could have a heater too, that you're gonna have to make this whole thing work. And we've discussed that before, we really haven't had the discussion of who's paying for what there. We wouldn't have to have the
Well,
heater.
what we discussed with Eric is that our plan was, as part of the bubble project, we would pay for, there's money in 22 or 3,
Okay.
somewhere in there, that half of the cost of the heater is in the budget,
Okay.
3 years out. We would pay for that up front, replace the heater, and then
Oh,
we
that's
could be
right.
reimbursed for that, for the half that's in the budget. But if we aren't gonna do the project, of course,
Yeah,
that
of
goes
course.
away.
So this could actually end up being a good deal for the city, because eventually we need to fix that pool anyway. We can't keep patching
And
it
if
all the
eventually
time.
we're gonna be required to address the circulation system anyways, does it, here's my question. They said they can kick the can down the road for 5 years. In 5 years, we're gonna have potentially a splash pad on the riverfront. And we'll have other facilities that kids will be able to take advantage of. Do we have any interest in doing that? Kicking the can down the road and then addressing the small pool at that point?
I'm okay with that, so we don't lose the 600,000 and all these people's time and energy and effort.
You and I kind of, what do you,
What do I think on?
on kicking the can down the road as far as the circulation system? And, because I think,
department's gonna waive it for 5 years.
I'd love to know what percentage of people actually use that pool. I don't think it's very many. I drove out there several times this
Are you
past
talking about the
week.
main pool or the baby pool?
The baby
Yeah,
pool.
we can.
It gets used.
We can.
And, okay. So,
I would call it a significant number.
So get the bubble.
I don't know. it's hard to, I don't, it's
I mean,
not like we
we
have any
don't have
data.
numbers on it.
Right.
I mean, it's
On-
just admission.
On
But
the,
it gets used.
on the postponing it 5 years, that's something that the city would have to apply for with the health inspector. I mean, you guys can
That's
apply and
beyond
say,
us.
yeah, we can't do that.
what do you think?
So,
Just said you'd have to tear the deck back up to do
Yeah.
one thing or the other.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of kicking the can down the road, unfortunately, but we do too much can kicking right now.
When you say can kicking, are you talking about piecemeal?
They're
patching?
talking about piecemealing, that we would be able to, or
Waive
that
it
maybe
for
the
5
health
years.
department would waive redoing the circulation for a few years to give us time to build up.
He said that the
I
health
gotta-
department could
Health
postpone the requirement for the circulation system to be separated for 5 years.
Up to.
Because they realize it's expensive for a community.
in,
I don't know.
but in all reality, aren't we kicking the can down the road 5 years by pushing it back too?
I understand that.
I mean, I understand
don't-
what you're saying,
I don't wanna
but
see
really
us do
that's
the
what you're
work and
doing.
tear
You're
it
just
back
pushing
up.
it down 5 years.
Well, I
so.
think one of my bigger
It's like
concerns
paving
is
a road and tearing it up. paving it
future
back.
councils, depending on usability, and there's no way to figure this out now, but they may, I mean, that pool could be closed 15 years from now if it's not being used enough. And I view this as an opportunity to like I said,
Spruce it up.
maximize it so that it is being used. If budget constraints continue to get tighter, that's an expendable amenity. So it's already been considered to be closed before. So what's saying that it's not gonna be closed in the future, and if we take the steps today where it is being used on a 365-day basis, then perhaps the likelihood of it existing 15 to 25 years from now is higher.
Agreed. It's a huge amenity for our community.
Our feeling is that a community the size of Burlington should have a public pool. Seems fair.
But at the same time, we need to know what the city's commitment is, even 15 years from now. I mean, I don't want to take these, this money. We need assurances that, any future plans, which we did talk about from the beginning. We had said, down the road, obviously at some point, this pool will have to be replaced, something will have to be done. And we had said, anything that you do would you still keep the bubble in the plan so that the bubble can still be used? That was the discussion that we had. And so, which, luckily it is a 50-meter pool. I mean, you're not gonna get much bigger than that, though. I mean, that's pretty much the largest pool you can build. So that was the discussion, that the bubble would still be used. Would build around, any plans in the future would need to be around the size of the pool, around the size of the bubble. But again, that's, I mean, we need, I know that's a hard commitment for the city to make. Like you said, it's gonna be future city council members, but if, it's just it's a difficult position, we understand. But again, we need to know how to proceed. So.
Well, James, we need Annie, but as far as I can see, we just need another work session. I don't know how to proceed
Well, we
to go
gotta
any
get more
further.
information.
We were just hoping to come back for one more.
What's that?
We were just wanting to
Yeah,
come
I
back
bet,
for one
I
more.
bet you did.
Yeah, right. But I mean, I really do.
Can we be earlier in the agenda next time?
What's that?
Can we be earlier on the agenda next time?
Yeah.
Consider it.
Put him as number 1 instead of number 2.
Yeah, we'll move you up a notch. But yeah, I never got a text back. I don't know what else we can do without Andy here to give us.
I think you need more information regardless on
Oh,
if
without a
you're.
doubt, we definitely need that too.
So we can have Eric check into his part of it.
Mhm.
I said that to you last week.
Cheslin,
I
do
said
you feel
it
good
was-
about that?
Don't have a lot of information.
Just, I did look at water costs. It depends on what you build, but about $800 a month for the 3 months is the water cost. Depending on what you build. I mean, you can,
It's on
Like I said,
sensors, so
I've used that as a
that's
compromise. Can't put any money into it, but
understood. I mean, we aren't saying that there's other ways within the lease agreement that we can work through the water cost too, but just, you asked that question, so that's what we came up with.
Yeah, again, I do applaud you guys on the hard work. You guys have been getting her done, so I hope you don't think I'm trying to poo-poo on the dream here. I still have to make sure that I do what I gotta do so I can sleep at night, so. All right, anybody else, any closing words?
So we're
coming back to this. Yeah.
Okay, we're coming back to it. We're gonna ask Eric to check out
With
some
more
information.
information.
see you in 3 weeks.
So
2 weeks
is,
or 3?
who,
We don't have a meeting next month, do we?
It'll be on
Yes,
Tuesday.
it's on Tuesday.
Oh, okay. 2 weeks. So 2 weeks.
so 2 weeks, okay. So will the city be looking into the requirements for the CAT grant?
Do you need, yeah,
I
what
mean,
do we
what,
need
I
to
guess
do?
what do we need to do? I mean, we sent you
James,
different
we need-
estimate, I mean, that one company sent estimates at different
I think Eric
levels.
can have some discussion on it, but we don't know what the project is or, I mean, Mike, I don't know if you've had familiarity even with CAT grants. Last I knew, the community needed money into it. I think when we submitted the last one, the county needed money into
Which
it.
they've done.
Which we have city,
So-
I mean, we've met,
previously we
yeah,
had
it-
met all the requirements the CAT grant required.
Okay.
This, with the city, and the city's commitment already, with the 108,000 for the concrete, the city's commitment, there's county commitment already that we had to do
we can show
last
good
time
public
we-
support for the project overall, so.
But it was a whole different deal with a 501c3 applying for it versus a city. It just was a completely different deal.
But yeah, between whether it's Eric or Mike or whoever,
We'll call the state and talk to Eric.
Thanks,
Okay.
Chuck. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Thanks.
you.
And you know what? We are gonna move you guys up. Appreciate your patience. Thanks, guys. All right. Chuck Norris, Great River Housing.
Thanks a lot, Jack. Better than Chuck Norris.
You guys won.
We brought some hard copies. We just updated the presentation today. Great to see everybody. Thanks for carving
You're
out
fine.
time for us.
Thank you.
I'm Mike Norris with the Southeast Iowa Regional Planning Commission. Sarah Heacox, you already heard from today in our office. Sarah's our lead housing staff. We just wanted to give an update about Great River Housing Trust Fund tonight. And just to start, Great River Housing is a 501c3 organization. Regional Planning spearheaded the formation of Great River Housing in about 2010, and we have an operating agreement with them to manage all their functions. We're one of 26 housing trust funds in the state, and on the first slide here, this is our kind of activities to date since 2011. We've been fortunate to bring in just over $5 million into our 4-county area in southeast Iowa. This is all for affordable housing, defined by benefiting persons of 80% of the median income or below. For one person, what that means is a person making just over $40,000. So they would qualify for some of our programs. And so we've also leveraged funds, almost $2 million from the Federal Home Loan Bank and also Home. And so we've been trying to complement what we get from local match and also Iowa Finance Authority to expand our program and bring a better, broader benefit to Southeast Iowa. And so just recently, one of those examples of leveraging, Southeast Iowa Regional Planning Commission secured 2 home down payment grants that we've deployed in Burlington. Funds awarded were about $630,000, and we assisted 19 homeowners to buy their first home. All the homes received some type of rehab, and I probably inspected about half of these. And one of the things we are sure to do, you'd be surprised how many homes don't have working smoke detectors. And so in almost all these homes, we made it a priority to put in hardwired smoke detectors. And we also do lead testing and did some major rehab, such as new bathrooms, but you know, some touch up, and that really rounds out the grant and helps the house be sustainable. So with the 2020 grant coming up here, we're looking at about a $315,000 total project, looking at $250,000 from Iowa Finance Authority with a local match of just over $63,000. All 4 of our counties participate. Been fortunate to have the city of Burlington participate. We've done a lot in Burlington. But we also try to extend that match. We don't want to stop at $63,000, because if we do, our program's smaller. If we go out and talk to communities, talk to different nonprofits like Christian Action here in town, Fellowship Cup in Henry County, we can extend our program and do more work. So we don't necessarily want to stop at that $63,000. And also with the local match, just with regional planning, we've raised almost $40,000 through our annual golf outing that benefits the Housing Trust Fund as
You
well.
raised 40 grand at a golf outing?
Over 7 years, yeah. We're working hard, Shane.
Golfing, man, all right.
Lots of whole sponsorships.
Get her done.
So what we do with Great River Housing, Inc., we do owner-occupied rehabilitation, which is just as it sounds. We go into a homeowner's house, we do a bid scope with them, we check out the house, and typically our projects are between $10,000 and $15,000. We do down payment assistance, that's $7,500 down for each project, and that's a non-payable loan. So it actually sits there until they want to sell the house. It comes back into the fund, and then we use it again. Project-specific financing, we're doing some spec building for affordable housing, single-family projects. Development assistance, these are $25,000 neighborhood grants for single-family housing for low to mod, and so we've done several of those. Also worked with Habitat as well. And then we also have an upper story program that we've been rolling out. So here's a couple of examples of, recent examples of owner-occupied here in Burlington. South Gertrude, we inspected this house and needed new roof, new windows, recovered a flat roof, also ice and water shield. The homeowner was working on the house. It's in a nice neighborhood here in town. And here's some after pictures. They're not quite as dramatic on the PowerPoint. There's no, kind of a big dramatic transformation, but it's a brand new roof. The windows look fantastic. The homeowners are excited. They're energized to put in more money. I think the neighbors are happy to see changes. And so, we're really doing things on the neighborhood, house by house level. Second one, this isn't done yet, but we've bid this out, and this is actually really close to the house that we're building with the Southeastern Community College Building Trades Program at 500 Hageman. Worked with the homeowner here. We're going to do a new roof, new gutters and downspouts. The sidewalk out front here that needs some help, that's going to be replaced as well. And we're also going to repair the chimney. So we're doing basic things, critical to the house, to its longevity, to the livability. And it's not only for the owner right now, but it's also for the people that will buy the house in the future. also for the neighborhood as well. So on the next slide here, Sarah and I have been working with Southeastern Iowa Community College Building Trades class. If this isn't the first home they've ever done, it's the first one they've done in a long, long time. They have a new trades instructor, his name's Doug Riley, and this is a lot that we worked with the city on. They auctioned it off, we bid on it, and this is pretty much what it looks like today. The students are back in class, working on the house. We've got the electrical, the plumbing roughed in, and this house is going to be sold at to an individual or family at 80% of the median family income. It's what is this, 1,300 square feet?
Yes,
14?
I think, no, it's about 12 something.
12 something. 3-bed, 2-bath, 2-car garage. It's going to have a finishable basement, meeting all the code. Met with Larry Caston out there. He gave us a couple pointers. And we're also going to have down payment assistance available for the buyer. So we'd really like to be, in the 140s on this house before down payment assistance, which we think puts it in reach. And we're also looking for more lots for SEC. They're pretty excited about this. Their trades class has increased like to twice as many kids as last year because everybody wants a hand in building the house. So, it's kind of fun working on something with multiple benefits. And I think with the trades education, everybody's talking about skilled trades and we need more trades. This is a great way to be exposed to it.
That's awesome.
Another example of a house we're building, Sarah and I were just down in Keokuk. This is another city partnership in Keokuk, right across from Rand Park. We picked out a bungalow design. It was unique, but also kind of true to a little bit of an older neighborhood. We're working with their trades class as well to build the garage, 80% income again. And we should be done with the construction here pretty quickly. And we're also going to have down payment assistance available. So both of these projects we just showed you, these were prior demo lots that then we worked with the city and the Housing Trust Fund to finance it to build a new house on that lot for a new future. We're also doing upper story, 25,000 a unit, up to 100,000. This is not quite as big as some of the federal programs we've done, but we don't have all the rules that the federal programs have either, so these are perfect for smaller developers. And we do have a round open right now that are due in September. So if you know anybody looking, this could be an option. And then finally, just to show you who is on the nonprofit board, we have some folks from the regional planning board. We have, but we also are required to have over half be from the private sector. So we try to attract people from different backgrounds from all around Southeast Iowa in our 4 counties. So we do have a couple cities represented here. We have someone from the Fellowship Cup, from Economic Development. We have a retired citizen, a city inspector. We have a real estate agent. We have a pastor. We have a business person. So try to get pretty diverse here. And when we make decisions about what to rehab or how to do it, goes to the board, we have the discussion. It's not just you write and you get. There's a lot of things that we look at.
Where did we get you from, Chuck?
Pella, Iowa.
That's
where I'm from.
Known as the housing man for Iowa.
Sarah's the real expert. She just lets me talk sometimes.
You guys are doing a good job.
Yep, outstanding.
So we would like, for the city's support, what we've been doing is $10,000 per fiscal year for the grant for a total of 20. And we always try to leverage funds just like these home grants, bringing that outside money in, doing more than what we could earlier. So we're looking forward to more success.
James, anything you want to add on that?
We built this within the capital improvement plan. We have 10,000 set aside for this. So we were taking it out of, as you were coming, we were taking it out of our housing rehab account. We have set it aside now as just an allocation of 10,000 annually. Now, you made a request here this last year, I think, too, we did another grant application for a focused housing project.
Mm-hmm.
What was it that you were applying for there, and what had been the results on that?
That was,
That was a CDBG grant for an owner-occupied, I think the current name is a Housing Sustainability Grant. We did a neighborhood over by Grimes School. We applied for 6 houses over there. It's similar to kind of what we're doing with Housing Trust Fund. They're federal funds, so there's more rules involved. They get $25,000 per unit. This one, we usually fund them a little less, maybe around 10 or 12 per house. That one was not funded. They sent those letters out a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
So we will work with Eric and see if the city's interested in doing that, again, maybe next year in applying. We will use the Housing Trust Fund like we did previously to match that grant for those funds.
So we've had this come up, and on an annual basis, you're coming forward with an ask on trying to get something in for housing, whether it's focused in the neighborhood like this last year's was, where we didn't get funding, or for what's the current round going to be? I'm sorry.
2020.
2020, and you're doing, is this housing rehab again, or?
Well, we can leverage
Or do you know what the project
another housing rehab
is?
grant off of these funds. So we're gonna apply in October this year, but the funds aren't available until spring of 2020.
And will that be owner occupied, or do you know what you're going after at this point?
We always put money aside for owner occupied. We do also put some money for down payment assistance. That's huge in our area.
So you're doing just $10,000 request for however you end up using that?
It kind of depends on the project. We do, if somebody's bid comes back a little over 10, then usually we just award that amount instead of, making it even 10,000. So we've awarded some bigger projects, but usually that's kind of where we like to stick around, is the $10,000.
Okay. And Steve, do you market this in our downtown area? As they talked about the upper story adaptive reuse?
We've worked with regional planning on a lot of housing projects.
You want to come forward and?
Yeah, the upper story development program. Sarah gave me the information a couple weeks ago, and I've shopped it around to a few people. I haven't heard back from anybody who's interested yet, but, a lot of those smaller, what is that, up to 4 units?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, a lot of those buildings have been done already. A lot of the ones that still have upper story vacancies are larger buildings, so.
And then I just had one other one, Mike. You have another program that you've been working on. You made a presentation a couple of months ago?
Yes.
What's the status on that? Or what was that program, and then what's the status on that?
Sure. A program that we've been working on, myself and regional planning, is called Homes for Iowa. And this is a partnership project where offenders will be trained in skilled trades while building homes. Those homes are sold all across Iowa. And so we've made a lot of progress since January. Governor announced her support. We secured $1.2 million from IFA for basically to help start the program, over 20 homes. And so we have a home that's basically dried in right now at the Newton site. We're starting a second home. We have locations for the first 3 homes, and they're going to go to Jefferson, Perry, and Newton at this point. We had looked at Marshalltown for disaster recovery. Really too much going on there right now.
They're still on cleanup.
We're going to get 4 homes there, but next year we're looking at 18 homes to build. Want to get some here in southeast Iowa. What we've done at regional planning is really kind of provide the nonprofit support, the housing programmatic support. Sarah and I were just up there a couple weeks ago. And so I incorporated the nonprofit, set that up, attracted the board, worked with IPI closely, and so now this is getting more and more attention. We recently received a national award for helping create this kind of program, so hopefully we'll be having more discussions about what kind of Homes for Iowa house we're going to put here in Burlington.
And that's a large part due to your effort on making this happen.
A lot of hands. Sarah's been in a lot of meetings. We've had Iowa Prison Industries has been a fantastic partner. A lot of people.
But you had to convince some people at IEDA to throw some money into it?
IFA.
And a few others.
IFA.
Okay.
We heard you made them an offer they couldn't refuse.
Really
proud of you guys.
One of the things that I had mentioned, and Chief, I don't know if you remember, at the Bridges Advisory meeting, people who've graduated from the Bridges program, there are a couple of them, they've had, part of their success stories is getting into housing. And that is one of the components that they'd like to be able to see more of, see people trained in how to be able to afford a house, how to set aside money appropriately, be skilled to be able to maintain a house. But I see this as something, if we couldn't have a discussion where, could we have one of these homes that's at the right price point to be a part of this discussion too?
That would be nice, my friend. That would be real nice.
So with the right credit package, we, with the original credit package we proposed to IFA, it was around $8 million, $3 million in grants, $5 million in loans. We thought we could sell a house for about $60,000 delivered. So we got 1.2 instead of the 8, and now it's gonna cost us about $100,000 to build a house. That cost is gonna go down because we have Iowa Prison Industries, staff just spread across 4 houses at this point. Once we can spread that staff out to the maximum, that price is gonna drop. Moving is also a consideration, but right now we're selling the houses for $75,000. So on a whole development basis, if you look at, the lot cost, if you want a basement, if you want the garage and the flat work and you start adding everything up, maybe we could end up, in the 140s with all the advantages, and you add everything. If we have other people in the community be a part of the whole Bridges concept and do like more of a habitat style, not the whole habitat, maybe like a little habitat, maybe that price drops a little bit more.
Maybe we can find some type of hybrid system and create our own, but
yeah.
But yeah, I have no doubt that you guys will be able to figure something out, so.
We're working on it.
As long as you can find a good house mover. They're hard to find, aren't they?
A good what?
House mover.
Ask Jim, he might be able to find one.
You might be able to find one?
So do you need you need us to do the 10,000? We've built it into our budget. Stephanie, do you need are you gonna need a resolution to do that, or just a few invoices for the 10,000?
Great, works for us.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you. Excellent work.
No doubt, man, no doubt. Okay, number 4 is monthly utility billing.
Some fool was supposed to put together a memo to go with this, only I forgot, so you don't have it. One of the things that's come up over the last few years has been a request for looking at the idea of having utility bills go out on a monthly basis as opposed to quarterly. And we've had some discussions, Shane has been asked a couple of times over the last few years whether it was something that was viable. I don't think that you have thought a whole lot of the ability to figure out how to staff it in a cost-effective manner. But over the last few months, Shane was able to put together what he thought was a feasible way to go forward on a potential conversion from the quarterly to monthly billing, but it doesn't come without a cost. So if you wanted to Shane, if you want to come forward and kind of go through what the numbers are and what they mean. In your packet, there is a sheet that shows the monthly billing. If you were to look at what our bills are now, and whether it's Stephanie or Shane on that sheet, is our current cost that first?
This is what Stephanie put together.
Yeah, the left-hand side of that sheet, which is what, page 105 of your packet?
Yeah.
Shows what it costs on an annual basis to do the billing quarterly. It has a monthly cost that you can see in it, but that's because you break the books into 3 separate books and you are billing a third of the system each month. Our current cost is annually, what the water department bills us for is about $164,000. there's an additional cost to go to the quarterly. And if you kind of want to walk through what we get for that the current 164,000 and what the two different options are for what additional cost it would be on an annual basis.
The biggest
to
cost would
change.
be the staff, because like this last month, what we did was we're not doing door tagging anymore, which you give them 48 notice. So what happened was we went from about 120 a quarter shut-offs, or it's for a month, up to almost 200. So that's what, we don't know how much staff we're gonna need, but we know we're gonna need a distribution guy that goes out, shuts the water on and off. And we're hoping those numbers fall down back to where they were, around 100 shut-offs. So that'd be about, if you put that into a monthly basis, that would be 300 of them. So you're gonna have one or two guys just out there full-time, just turning it off, turning it back on, once people don't pay their bills.
Okay, now, here's my thought on that, though. If it's paying, could you pay it monthly and still leave it quarterly on the shut-off?
You can. Well, what'll happen is, say your bill's $300 for the quarter. You can get online, or you can come down and you can put $100 on your bill, but what I was told was people just aren't doing that. And a lot of people think that they'll pay, if it's a monthly bill, they'll pay it a lot easier. I don't know if that's
I
true.
think
The
that
ones I
applies for
see,
some.
some will, but you're
Yeah.
still gonna have the people, they don't pay their Mediacom, don't pay their Verizon. They're still gonna get shut off. I think what Jim was saying, he was hoping that number would go down. I don't know. I think you'll see the same people on that list, but hopefully by them getting hit with maybe the fees, which I don't know. Most cities say the more you make the fee, it still stays the same. All you do is make more money off of it. So the fee doesn't really make people just come in and pay their bill. If they don't have it, they don't have it. So I truly don't know if it's gonna help or not. I mean, I heard that this is kind of what the council wanted. So for waterworks, either way, it doesn't matter to us. It's gonna be more staff for us to do it monthly, because we're gonna go from 120 to 330 or 320 to shut off. So it's a lot more to take on.
But that's only if we do move to the committee, to the monthly disconnecting every month.
Yeah.
Outside of that, if it stayed where just making the monthly payments, but it stayed quarterly on the disconnection.
they can do that.
What's that gonna do to staff?
That's just it. Nothing should change, because people are doing that already. You can go online, you can say, hey, my bill's 300, I can put 100 on there, and then each month they can do that. It doesn't change, staffing wise, that won't change anything.
No, I'm saying switching to a monthly bill.
Oh.
But a quarterly disconnection.
Monthly bill.
No.
No.
They're not gonna be able to,
No.
I think you're gonna have
Here-
trouble
here's-
in an
here's what-
accounting,
here's what-
in a system for knowing when the.
Here's what people, well, I got some people watching.
Yeah.
So they're saying it's already quarterly. Why can't I just have a monthly bill and still have the disconnection quarterly? So the answer to that is you can. You can pay online.
Yep.
And what's the other way?
Or you can stop down, you can call
What kind
down,
of
we have an
arrangements?
800 number. I mean, and there's no charge for any of that.
Okay, so you can pay online, you can even pay money in advance and they'll
You can
credit
stop
all that?
down, they'll put a credit, and what'll happen is when your bill comes out quarterly, it'll say whatever's left when that bill goes out is what's due. So say it's $300, and you've been down twice for the month, that last bill will say $100. So-
This has been, since I got on council, this has been a thing, somebody saying, if only I get tired of the 3 months, and my thought process is
in previous
just,
times, before we had the online, they would have to physically stop down and do it. Now with the online being free, and we have probably 12 or 1,300 people a month using it now, that's helped a lot. They can just go online, put their account number in, how much they want to pay on it, and they're done. What they can't set up is auto pay. They can set up auto pay through our ACH, which would be through like F&M Bank, where it would automatically come out, but that has to come out quarterly. It can't, that ACH like that can't come out monthly. So you have to get on there and put it down yourself.
okay. Well, you've answered my questions.
I mean, for me, we can handle either way.
Let me ask you this, Shane. Do you think we're getting the message out? Do you think enough people know that they can pay online monthly? I mean,
We try to tell
there's a
everybody
lot of
we
people
can.
that I talked to, they didn't know this.
Yeah.
The bill says right on it, you can go online and pay, has the web address. I just paid it a week ago.
We try to put all these notices in the mail, little slips of paper to tell them everything they can do. I mean, it's just, a lot of people just don't read them. I mean, just like the notices that we're not doing the door tagging.
Yeah.
The week before, I mean, people come and say,
So-
well, we didn't get our tag, but
So you're saying that even if we went to a monthly billing, you're most likely gonna have the same people with the same problem, on average.
That's what I hear from the other cities.
So I don't know why, I don't know why we would move to a system that's gonna cost us $63,000 more a year to have the same result.
And-
That doesn't sound like it makes
And we're
a lot
hoping
of sense
that's,
to me.
you know, that's probably minimum to get by with for the cost.
Yeah.
That's just putting one guy, because I just had 200 shut-offs last month, and I mean, it, you know, 4 guys for 3 days just turning it back on. It's hard to do.
Would it be possible to have the automatic deduction go to a monthly format for the people that had trouble budgeting?
The bank says they can't do it.
Oh, okay.
Is there extra money when you get disconnection and reconnection? Is there like a reconnection, an extra?
$35.
That doesn't cover?
No, by the time they make the disconnection, they're about $60 in the hole for not paying on time. And it wasn't for us to make money. The big deal was just to get the people to try to pay that on time. Because we'd have guys going out, you know, $20 an hour to shut the water out. We don't want to send them out. We'd rather be out laying a water main. But I talked to Atoma, they said once they start charging penalties, all they did was make more money.
Well, I still think these things need to be looked at, you know, you never know, and maybe sometimes it's timing or something breaks and gives. But again, when I first got on 2012, this was an issue that
Yeah,
people had talked about.
that's what I heard,
And they're
too.
still talking about it, so
Yeah.
I am glad that we put it on, at least brought it to our attention to talk about. Council, where you guys at?
It is nice that there is payment options. I didn't know that, so I learned something.
I'm okay leaving it as it is. I mean, if he had said, hey, you know, I think going to a monthly bill, we're gonna be able to keep X number of people or X percentage of people from hitting this $60.
I mean, that's
shut-off
your
list.
hope.
I mean, that's your hope, but
We haven't seen any change with
Yeah.
implementing penalties really, other than we make more money off of that, and which helps with the online for free. That's all this came out of it, really. Atoma told us that we probably wouldn't see a change.
You know, the frustrating thing is, you know, it seems to be, and it's not necessarily our problem, but it is our problem. It's the same old refrain. People don't know, and it doesn't matter how much we go out and put it on an invoice or put it on this.
Yeah.
They don't take a few minutes to investigate it and see what your options are.
Yeah, we try to tell them when they come down, but typically that's after their water's been shut off and they don't really want to hear it at that point. So we try.
That's the world that we live in, though.
Yeah.
And so I just want to make sure that we do what we can to try to get the information out. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. But
No.
still, we want to lead him to the water.
I was gonna say that one, but I left that for you.
Really? Thank you. Any other questions for Shane?
Council, the question I have is, as a group, you're satisfied staying at quarterly billing and not looking at the option of what it would, based on the cost, on what it would
Based on
take
the
to move to a
cost,
monthly
yeah.
billing?
Now, if they're required to put a meter in when they do a new service,
Then you go monthly.
then you're on monthly automatically,
Yeah.
you don't have a choice. So as people's services go bad in the ground, then they have to go to a monthly bill. At some point, but it'll be a slow process. I mean, you're talking less than 100 a year.
I'm not seeing enough to push this any further.
Nope.
James? Okay, thank you, Shane.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming down. Next
The
time,
only-
we'll move you up a little higher, too. You know what I mean? We'll move you up.
The only-
Everybody.
I know.
I would just offer a point of, just for your consideration. The next item that's on for discussion is not time sensitive
No,
at
it
all.
can wait.
If you want to wait till the following meeting, we've been here.
Yeah, it can wait. I'm the one that brought it up, so I'm comfortable with waiting. In fact, I could probably talk to the
Good,
chief and get
CDK?
some of my answers, so.
Appointments, we good? Barbara Nelson Botts resigned. Jane Schulte's expressed interest. And then Steve Rowland resigned. Judy Smithson-Hilkin has expressed interest.
And Steve resigned from which committee?
Energy.
Renewable energy? We good?
Yep, they'll both be great.
Okay. You guys have been fantastic. Thanks very much. This meeting's adjourned.
Oh, Nick, jeez.
It's of
He's
something
already
of
hit the
note.
gavel.
It'll take 5 seconds. We are doing some smoke testing in the North Hill neighborhood this week, so we'll start Wednesday morning early. So what that involves is we have a machine that we put over top of a manhole. It blows smoke into the sewer line. At times, when there's cross connections, it'll end up in somebody's house. We'll hang door flyers and we'll contact the fire department. So sometimes people think their houses are on fire when it's a small
Wednesday
test, so-
to, when's that ending?
Wednesday. It'll be all day.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Remember, it's Labor Day, so put your trash out Tuesday.
Is that it?
That's good.
That's it.
Speed zones, school started, go slow.
Hey,
Next-
there you go.
And yes, mentioning Labor Day, our next meeting is on Tuesday.
Tuesday.
That is correct. That is correct.